Today I'm going to discuss anaesthetists and medical malpractice. In our experience, we've had a number of cases involving medical malpractice with anesthesiologists. I'm going to tell you about some of them, and hopefully you'll find them interesting and educational. An anaesthetist's job is to make sure that A, it's safe for you to undergo the surgery, B, when you're under anesthetic, that you're still able to, that your body still functions normally, and that you're properly oxygenated, and that your blood flows properly, and that you're handling the pain that's being inflicted on your body during the surgery, and then that you recover from the surgery and you wake up, and anything that's happened to you during the anesthetic is out of your system or is properly addressed once you're in the ward and no longer under anesthetic. So several things can go wrong with the involvement of an anaesthetist. One example could be an anaesthetist needs to make sure that it's safe for his patient to undergo the surgery. And one of those is making sure that there are no allergies, that blood pressure's good, heart rate's good, and that basically systemically the patient can handle whatever's coming his or her way. A classic example is somebody who hasn't followed the protocol of not eating for a certain number of hours before the surgery. Now, what can be the complication? Why is it always necessary for us to not eat? It's so that we have nothing in our stomach that can be brought up while we're lying on the operating table. And where's the danger in that? It's called aspiration. You'll bring up some half-digested food matter, and then what happens is your initial reaction is to breathe, and that sucks the food matter down into your lungs, and the stomach content has got acid in it, and that acid will damage the lungs. So it's the anaesthetist's job, obviously, to make sure that you haven't eaten, and then also, if you have eaten, if you're undergoing an emergency operation, to then take steps to make sure that either they're ready if there is an aspiration event, or to take steps to avoid that aspiration event. For example, making sure that the patient is lying on his or her side so that anything that's vomited up will not automatically flow down. So we've had incidences where patients have aspirated and then that's caused them harm, and often that aspiration must be managed, and the airway must be managed to ensure that the patient can then recover and that the lungs are helped with ventilation. So what happens when you undergo anesthetic? We all know that you either breathe in gases or you have an injection, a drip placed into your arm, and then various drugs are administered. Some drugs are administered to calm you down, some drugs are there to put you to sleep, and other drugs are given to manage pain. Now, obviously, certain operations are more painful than others. Certain operations carry on for an awfully long time, and the duration of efficacy of the drug, the period during which the drug has an effect on the management of pain, is very important. So each drug has an impact on your body and on your heart rate and your blood pressure, and if you can or can't breathe, it'll affect your oxygen saturations, how much oxygen is in your blood, and whether your tissues are all getting oxygenated. So it's so important for the anaesthetist to be monitoring all your vitals throughout the operation, and to make sure that when, let's say, your heart rate increases significantly, indicating that you're maybe panicking a little bit, even though you're not realizing it, because the pain is now becoming intense, so the medication is wearing off slightly, then more medication might be administered. Or it may be that too much of a certain kind of medication may cause you to become too deeply depressed. Your sense of your body's automatic functioning, in which case it's so important that you then get brought slightly out of the anesthesia and that you're able to then automatically breathe. Because if you can't automatically breathe, then it's important for the anaesthetist to make sure that you're intubated or that you're assisted with breathing. A key component is making sure that the airway is open and able to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that's often why we wake up and we feel a raspy feeling at the back of our throats, because the doctor's inserted a tube to make sure that our airway is open. We've had an incident where somebody was under conscious sedation and they didn't have a tube in their airway, and the sedation was so low that the patient wasn't breathing sufficiently, and unfortunately the anaesthetist didn't have his finger on the pulse, so to speak, and the patient became so depressed from an oxygen point of view and from a respiratory point of view that he suffered a heart attack. And unfortunately, although they had people running around and emergency resuscitation, unfortunately they couldn't resuscitate the patient and he died. I think that example illustrates pretty well the role of the anaesthetist while you're under anesthetic in making sure that everything's working well, all blood pressure's good, gas exchange is good, heart rate's good, and that the medication is appropriate and needs to be either increased or decreased accordingly, so that there's a good balance and so that you remain healthy throughout the operation insofar as your stability is concerned, so that you can endure the surgery and come out on the other side still in a good condition.